Test test. Okay. And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFK Refugees podcast. Ted here, Jon here, talking DC United, Washington Spirit, U.S. men's national team, Loudoun United, all the soccer, which only one's really playing right now. Well, the Spirit did finish up the fall series. They won their bracket, which is good. And yeah, man, how was your weekend, man? How'd you do?
Oh, I was great. I had a weekend in Virginia Beach in the rain, but it was in Virginia. It was away from home, and you can't ask for more than that right now in the middle of a pandemic. But also, really, hashtag blessed here. We have plenty of things to talk about.
We do. You were actually you were thinking about skipping this show, and then suddenly something amazing happened, or something. I don't want to say amazing, but something surprising, happening.
Newsworthy,
notable, exactly.
Also, before we get started, I want to thank everyone who bought a T-shirt. There were a lot of you, so thank you all for doing that. Apparently it will ship out in 2 weeks, so I expect to have a whole bunch of pictures sent to us on the Twitter feed so that we can show all the turkeys who waited past the time at which the fundraiser closed. But thank you all for your support, and I think that undoubtedly it was a success, and we'll do more of this stuff. DC Soccer Cuties shorts may happen. Who knows? I think I made a statement that if we sold X number, we sold X plus. So man on my word, gotta make some shorts.
You guys make this show possible. You guys have continued to amaze me. I still, maybe I'll reminisce a little bit. I still think about when Jon and I started this show through a message about what we wanted to do. I don't think we ever thought it would get to this. So again, you guys continue to be amazing and impressive. So let's just jump into the news. I am very sore right now. I refereed 8 youth soccer games this weekend. That was my weekend, by the way, was just constant refereeing. Parents were all nice and very pleasure to ref in front of, let me tell you. But let's get into the news. Ben Olsen, 10 years, no longer the coach. This is something that we had talked about, I think, a lot, about whether, first we hear he's on the hot seat. I think we all kind of thought probably till the end of the year is when it's going to happen, the way things were going. But apparently things decided to end a little bit quicker. The team announcing that they have parted ways. He's part of his contract, which has been reported on by Pablo Maurer, has said that he basically gets another role in the club. You were saying before the show started that apparently in his Instagram post, not sure whether that's going to happen.
Yeah, the direct, I'm reading now, the direct quote is, "I'm looking forward to the unknown in this next chapter of my life, but will cherish the 20 plus years of service to the organization." So that doesn't mean that, it means he doesn't know what he's going to do next. But to me, it made it sound like I'm putting a bow on this 20 years. I'm going to go do something different. We were talking before the show. Granted, he's got a paycheck coming to him of less money than he had before, but it would be very hard. It's like a demotion in your current office, a place that you've worked for 20 years, and all of a sudden you're like, well, you have the one job, but now you're a goodwill ambassador for the company. So you hang out in the kitchen and give everybody their coffee for half of your normal paycheck.
Yeah, it's certainly a demotion for him, and You almost have to, and there was a moment, when it was announced. I think there are a lot of people who have been critics from him from day one. There are people that have been asking why, how is he still here?
There are people who have built their entire online personas around having him be fired and how everything is his fault. So the worst part about this is it serves as a quasi vindication for a few individuals that have driven most DC soccer fans, media, whatever, insane for the last a million years.
Hey, Rudy, man, we're gonna open the show for calls, man. Call in. Let this be a moment we can make peace.
Who have built their entire.
Jon has to go ruin my moment, man. I swear.
No, I wanted to. Yeah, man.
But Rudy, man, call into the show, man. You've been harping on Ben. You've been the most vocal critic of Ben. This is our chance, my friend. Let's make peace. Let's let's bury the hatchet. I am reaching an olive branch out to you, my friend. But yeah, it's going to be a weird feeling because it's been 10 years. Like I think about like 2010, I was like a sophomore in college when Ben Olsen took over the job at DCU when he was named the coach, and it's gonna feel real. Like it probably still feels a little weird now, though. I mean, we're not. There have been instances when Ben's obviously been fired from the bench and Chad Ashton's been there, so it didn't feel quite as weird as I expected because Chad Ashton's been there. He's been there since Tom Sohn was hired in 2006, I want to say, or 2007, somewhere along those lines. So that really didn't feel as weird. There was some interesting speculation as to who would get the interim job. That was answered pretty quickly when they gave it. Many people thought maybe it'd be Nolan Sheldon, guy very, very highly thought of in the organization, academy coach, youth coach, now an assistant coach. Many people thought he might be sort of given the job as sort of a trial to see maybe if he can be the coach. I think that's a bad situation. I think they made the right choice giving it to Chad Ashton. I think it sends a message that, unfortunate for Chad, look, we're gonna find somebody else. We're not gonna throw an untested coach into the waters. I think it does send a message, sort of that message to the fans. I think if they hire Nolan Sheldon, I'd be thinking, oh god.
I think you lose him though, right?
Yeah.
I think Nolan probably says, all right, see ya, goodbye. Next season,
maybe
the new coach coming in is going to want to bring it. Or you say that Chad Ashton goes, and Nolan becomes the top assistant. That's the only way I see you retain Nolan, who many teams had apparently been making entreaties for before the season started. So something to consider, that by not giving him this shake, potentially you are saying goodbye in 7 games.
Very true, and there is a case to be made that I think this team, to make a statement, to make a declaration that we are doing things differently, bringing anybody in the current organization is going to send a message that, well, it didn't work with, where, we let it play out with Ben. Now we're basically going to do the exact same thing we did. I think this team needs to go out and they need to make a big splash in their coach. I think they need to hire somebody from outside the organization, bring a fresh pair of eyes. I feel like the biggest problem, the reason this team's been stuck, part of the reason, obviously the money's been a big concern, is the fact that just nothing has ever changed. It's always the same. And bringing a fresh pair of eyes can really make a difference in an organization, even one that is still maybe unsure how they're going to spend their money. So, I think it stinks for Nolan, but I think it's the right call from the team to say, hey, we need somebody to bring in a fresh perspective, something different, something that maybe we haven't thought about, because right now what we've been doing hasn't been working. But before we get into maybe a little bit of that, I do want to sort of talk a little bit, and obviously this is sort of a tribute, a thank you to Ben Olsen for 10 years. This guy took the job when no one else in their right mind probably would have taken this job. This team, maybe it wasn't clear, maybe 2010-ish, but certainly by 2011, 2012, and certainly by 2013, it was clear that this team was very, very much on the cheap, on the budget. This was going to be it. And there's sort of a narrative that this team's just always been terrible, and that's just simply not true. It's been a roller coaster. It's been up and down. It's been, good seasons, top of the East. It's been in the playoffs, Eastern Conference Final, and then it's been seasons where it's been, really, really bad. 2010, 2013, 2017, almost on, 3-4 year cycles of sort of badness. And then we have, of course, 2020. Right now. So it's been a roller coaster, probably when a team that, doesn't spend the money to keep up. They have to sort of rely on, finding value, and then they, sign that value, and that value deteriorates. And it's sort of been that cycle for Ben. I have a lot of, I think there will still be some fond memories of Ben. Obviously my favorite memory is the 2013 Open Cup final. In my opinion, that will be, I don't think we'll ever reminisce about how great that team was when they won that trophy, but we will reminisce just the almost the light in just an absolute darkness of that season, when it was almost like an exception. It sort of, I think when we finally accepted the fact that things are going to be really bad. I mean, this was a moment in which, we didn't know if the team would even be in DC. I don't think the stadium was even on the horizon. Jason Levy and the ownership group that was brought in wasn't here. We had, one guy kind of just holding Will Chang kind of holding the reins, kind of trying to steer this thing. The season was going terribly. Everything was kind of falling apart, and they still managed to go out and win a trophy and win a major American trophy. And that's something you can't take away from Ben. And they did it winning 2 road games even. So you can't even say, well, they played all their games at home, like some people like to say about the Open Cup. So for that instance, I think that was a significant moment for me to watch that team do that and to go out and win that. And there have been plenty of other great moments, I think, with Ben Olsen as coach. It hasn't been, as successful as the late 90s and early, mid 2000s, but I mean, this is what this team was, and Ben guided this team. He didn't never complain. You never heard him say, "I wish the owners would give me more." I wish the owners would give me more money to sign more players. He was very much about, and he had I think a devotion to this team and wanted it to win. What is it? They put out a stat that he's been involved in 71% of DC United matches, all DC United matches, which is insane, either as a player or a coach. So that is absolutely insane when you really think about it. So. And now we get to enter in a new era without Ben. So that's my piece on Ben. So cheers to you, Ben. Thanks so much for the time.
Lots of time it was, for sure. So what's do we want to get into the coaching? We can either go to the game or we can do the coaching speculation, the story around who we might be looking at. What do you think?
Speculation time. Let's do it.
Speculation time. So I believe Pablo confirmed this today, who coaches that are being looked at: David Wagner, Jason Kreis, Jill Ellis, and now also apparently John Harkes as a potential hire. John Harkes would be very interesting, considering it would be a very Ben Olsen-like hire, as far as club legend, and then Ben had a half a season of assistant coach experience when he got given the job. John Harkes has bounced around a little bit. I believe he's in Greensville.
He's in Greenville. He's doing a good job with Greenville. They're top of League One right now. They are playing very, very well through a lot of the competition. So they're doing a good job down there.
So the question, of course, is what kind of hire is this going to be? Like, what is the goal? What is the financial decision making and the rest of the team? If you've read the Steve Goff article, there's 2 articles, more stuff. There's been more DC United content to consume in the last week than there has been probably in the last 3 months, which makes sense because the team has been bad and uninteresting, and now something very interesting happened. But Steve, and there was an Athletic post as well that sort of said that the team, sources say the team knows that it needs to spend more money on scouting. It needs to spend more money on the things around the team that are not necessarily just players, and that they're falling behind, and that any coach they hire will not succeed unless they do that. So that's promising. He pushed Jill Ellis forward. He, being Steve Goff, pushed Jill Ellis forward as the prime candidate that he would like to see them hire. On that, I can say that Bill Hamid, obviously not a fan of that post. He had liked criticism of that choice. He's the king of the subtweet, and he doesn't. I think there's no love lost for Steve Goff historically. If you've been following Twitter for 10 years now, So I think that I think the fan base is pretty mixed on it as well. I think there are some people that are very interested in the idea of hiring a successful international coach, but also I think people are also very enamored at the idea of breaking a barrier, doing something that no one else has done before. I think that there's definitely some weight to that. My point on Jill Ellis would be that an international coach that has success with the most talented team in the world does not foretell for sure good club coaching experience. The thing that I thought of today was Scolari going to Chelsea and getting fired in 7 months after winning a World Cup, and coaching Portugal and coaching Brazil. There are a number of examples of international coaches who have done well. The club game from international is such a huge difference. Putting aside sort of the concept between any other differences that might exist between the U.S. women's national team and DC United, I think that is I'm not sure that this is the right moment for the club to break that barrier. I think that there are so many things wrong with this team, being sitting in last place, historically being near the bottom, or not near the bottom, but like just middling and having lots of holes in the roster. I feel like you have to choose someone that has a much longer track record of success at the club level, and maybe even specialists in turnaround. I think was something you want to look at. What are your thoughts, Ted?
Yeah, the Jill Ellis thing, Jill Ellis, the idea of signing Jill Ellis is I have a mixed reaction, I guess. And well, I absolutely understand the barrier breaking it would be. It would be a tremendous moment to watch a female take over a men's side for I'm pretty sure the first time, certainly in MLS and U.S. soccer history. I will say that a lot of the comments from the U.S. women's national team players post her leaving, from Ali Krieger, who I respect, from Sydney LaRue, from a lot of them, have basically said that they have basically said to the effect that we won it. They feel they won in spite of Jill Ellis as their manager, and that gives me pause. And that should, I mean, if DC's smart, it should give DC pause. The national, I will say, comparing one difference in how U.S. soccer runs their women's teams as opposed to most national teams is that they do basically run it like a club team. They still don't probably play as many games, or certainly not the long season. There's certain differences, obviously.
Salary being a big sort of that sort of element of that some players waking more than you, and being able to leave.
I think the biggest thing about, and there is a point to be made too. She coached the best team in the world. 18 players on that roster, every single one of those 18 players would be starters on any other national team. I mean, that team was just so good. And a lot of the groundwork was laid by Pia Sundhagen. So she would be somebody maybe I would consider maybe breaking that barrier as well. Certainly had a good rapport with a lot of the players, and for the women's national team, and really sort of guided that team and really set up Jill Ellis to be successful. And I think she kind of gets maybe pushed a little bit to the side from a U.S. women's national team perspective, because those U.S. women's teams were not great. They were not the great world dominating powers from the early 2000s. They won in '99 and then nothing really. I mean, they didn't win another World Cup until obviously 2015. So that was a big gap before and then of course they won again in 2019. So I think there are some options there for a coach.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say some of the other options. John Harkes is interesting. I think he has had success at Greenville, which I think, maybe he learned a lot of lessons from being at Cincinnati. Obviously, he was let go before Cincinnati became an MLS team. So I think that is also, I think the biggest problem is DC cannot screw this up.
Nope.
And that's, I think, a lot of apprehension. Whatever coach DC decides on, there is going to be people that are going to bring up drawbacks. There's going to be drawbacks to everybody. There's positives for having Jill Ellis there. Obviously, the media, the excitement of having someone like that. There are the concerns about how she was at the U.S. Women's national team and what the players thought about her. You have John Harkes, would be a club, a club legend, great player, won a lot of championships, has some decent, professional coaching experience for sure. Nothing at the top level, which is concerning. You look at Jason Kreis, who's a guy who was the darling of Major League Soccer coaching, and then he went to New York and Orlando and has fallen off. If I'm looking for a sort of turnkey type coach, a guy who I think could step in and immediately be successful, he's honestly my guy. And I think he showed in RSL he was not given an unlimited budget, and he managed to be successful for a long time and really drive that team. And you look at where RSL is now, you have players holding parties of 100 people and firing a gun off and being suspended. So and you have all the trouble there in RSL. So I think Jason Kreis would be a potentially a good option for this team if this team is looking maybe not to spend. I think if you make a big time hire like Jill Ellis, then you almost have to open the pocketbooks. You have to give her everything that you can do. You can't just be the same cheap DC United. So I think there's some important thing. That's some important things to consider for the team.
Another thing to look at. Would you say that Ben Olsen has won enough, too much, or not enough? What would you say Ben Olsen's winning percentage? Are you happy with his winning percentage? Do you think we should aim for higher than his winning percentage?
I don't think you can be happy with a coach. I don't know his exact winning percentage. I know it's
36%. 36%.
Yeah, and you can't be happy with that as someone who wants to watch your team win. Again, you can't be happy with a long jumper who can only jump a couple feet when he's got a bowling ball attached to his foot.
So with that in mind, I want to because I just want to talk about Jason Christ. Jason Christ did well at Real Salt Lake, over 267 games, 41% winning percentage. That created his mystique. That created the halo effect around his name. In New York, 28%, fired over 2 years. Orlando City, 33%, fired over 2 years. Now he coaches Fort Lauderdale and also the U.S. U23.
Well, okay. To be fair to Jason Christ, yes, it was 2 seasons, but he was hired.
In New York City, was 1 season. You're right.
It was one season. It was 1 season.
He was cooling his heels for a year and like just hanging out and getting paid. It was actually a pretty sweet deal. If I remember correctly, they did a video about it. He was just hanging out with his kids in New York. Another coach, David Wagner, another fan favorite. I've heard a lot of people talk about him. Winning percentage of Huddersfield, including a year in which they got promotion, 33%. Schalke, 30%. So we're I think so. Here's the question: do we want to hire someone with a track record of winning, maybe not necessarily at a level at MLS's level or higher, or do we want to say that someone else who now assets are spending not high at Huddersfield, Schalke, I think probably better than Huddersfield, but also severely underwhelming. Wagner had extremely long stretches of losses at both. I believe the winless streak was 16 league games. Oh, more than that, 18 in a row. And then he was fired after the 18th game at Schalke. And he got promotion with Huddersfield, but then was fired by January of the next year. That's not uncommon in the EPL. He kept Huddersfield in for 1 season and then was fired the second half of the next season. Anyway, the question is that I think we should not be so in a rush to clamp on to the first couple names chosen here. Hopefully it's expanded beyond that. I think that we have some time to get this right. It's clear they did not have a coach in waiting ready to go. I don't think that's where we're at. So I hope that they spend the time, they understand what their plan is going to be. I think you said it the last show, not Kevin Payne, not Kevin Payne. The GM is not going anywhere. Dave Casper, not Kevin Payne. I don't know what year I'm stuck in. Dave Casper is not going anywhere. He is going to be a part of this decision making. He's going to be accountable for the next year. It's very clear by some of the comments that came out in the statement about Ben Olsen, but also just I think if you were going to let go of Ben, there'd be no reason right now not to let go of him as well, because you're not bringing anybody else in. There's nothing else to do. So clearly you're going to give him another year at least. So anyway, those are the names that have been circled. I think that we need to go beyond that, just because I'm not wowed by any of these choices. But maybe if you're the last place team in MLS for ownership that is notoriously cheap, you're never going to be blown away by an option of somebody who wants to come coach for you.
Here's an interesting thing. So I think a fan, I forget who brought it up, but and I think our friend Charlie Bohm kind of look at how jaded DC fans are, type of comment. But basically, what he said is, this person on Twitter said, really, this isn't going to be DC hiring a coach. This is going to be DC convincing a coach that it's worth it to come here. What do you sort of make of that? Do you think that is true, or do you think that's maybe dipping a little bit too much into the negativity?
I think if you're trying to get Jurgen Klopp, you've got to convince somebody. But I think that most coaches, are excited about opportunities. It's depending on how high you're shooting. I think any
Jason
coach that will
Christ
be
would
able to
jump at
get,
this opportunity to come here.
huh?
If DC called and said, "Hey, we want to hire you," he would jump at it because I know he wants to get back into the game. I am sure he is sour about New York and Orlando and what happened there. I mean, this was a guy who many people thought was going to be like a potential national team type of coach when he was at RSL, and then he just completely and utterly just collapsed after two bad seasons. I will again say, I will make the argument, as always, the situations in New York and Orlando were not good ones, because I think he had a club willing to that try to spend money or tried to go after money, but it's and they tried to be bigger. I think him managing Frank Lampard maybe a little bit was a little bit odd maybe for him to try to figure out.
But he, at the time he went to New York, he said he wanted to go to a club that had ambition.
Mm-hmm.
So he chose that was the sword he drew on himself and then fell on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know he's definitely been the coach that you've been talking about and maybe for the options that we have, he's the best one. But we will. I think we're still gonna. I bet you the name comes from beyond this original culling. I bet you that we continue to find more names.
It could.
Let's talk about the game that happened.
Yeah, it almost seems small, but I mean there are some things to digest from that game. I am. It's one of those games this season that I'm not so negative on, maybe because I mean I've already accepted the season's over, and I guess the one thing I'm like on the perspective of, okay, who do I want back next year is more what I'm looking at. So
let's talk about the thing you weren't happy about. So let's talk about the lineup to start with.
Yes.
Notable absences from the starting lineup: Griffin Yao, Kevin Paredes, both starting on the bench. Moses Nyman did not make the 18 or 19 or however many people we had. He apparently had a slight injury and there's a plan for him to either play or be on the bench on Wednesday. But interesting lineup choices. Eric Sorga also started for the first time this season. I have lots to say about Eric Sorga, and I will talk about them later. But what do you think? Tell me what you think now. What did you think at the time when you saw this lineup, and then now sort of where's your head at after that?
In the time, I guess I had the same mindset of it's almost like Chad Ashton. It seemed to me like Chad Ashton was trying to, okay, I'm in this position, and hey, maybe if I'm in the same position, I'm doing the same thing. And maybe he is in the mindset of, Ben got this wrong. I'm going to get these guys in here and I'm going to play this way that I want to play. And we're going to try to win games, and we're going to try to get this team into the playoffs so I can make a case for my job. It would not be surprised if, if the team was like, look, Chad, you're under consideration. We'll see how it goes. I doubt it happens, but I mean, maybe he's trying to make his play there. I was upset, obviously, because, I want to see more Paredes. I want to see more Griffin Yao. Moses Nyman being injured was, and it was almost a complete reversal. I'm like, no, we're making so much progress. But you know what I noticed in the game? Yes, we gave up an early goal. We've been doing that all year. We gave it up off a set piece, no less. But obviously the defensive core is kind of there. Birnbaum's injured. Pines is going to be there. I think, maybe you say this is the year you say kind of goodbye to Brilliant, I think, at this point. But offensively, I thought we finally, it's taken a long time. We finally saw a glimpse. If we talk about the two big players that were brought in, that's Julian Gressel and Edison Flores coming off the bench. Finally, they started to show signs of what we were sort of promised when the team brought them in. Julian Gressel finally has figured out or has relearned how to play service because his service off free kicks was incredibly dangerous, and all it needed is just one person to actually have a good enough header, a good enough finish to put the ball into the back of the net. And that was very, very good to see. I thought Julian Gressel showed a lot of improvement almost, and there was a lot of energy, particularly after the first goal, and then obviously they gave up the second off a set piece. But then there was a lot of energy in that second half where it almost looked like they belonged on the same field, which is something we have not seen at all this year. They've always looked like they did not belong on that field.
The stats bear that out too on Gressel as well. He had the most expected goal chain, which I'm guessing is like part of expected goal opportunities. Most progressive passing, most progressive passing received. So certainly he was unleashed a little bit. Maybe I'm not. I don't have. I didn't break down film. I don't know if he was not getting back defensively, but he was certainly much more engaged in the attacking third than he has been.
There is something to be said when a coach is let go. Suddenly, there's uncertainty in any position up and down. I guarantee you ask every one of those players, they will tell you the same thing, that when a coach is let go, there suddenly becomes uncertainty about your position, about whether you'll be, whether the coach wants you next year, whether you're having to, you look at Julian Gressel, he's on a long-term contract. Maybe
he likely felt good getting out from under Ben.
Yeah.
I feel like he either, I don't know if they had disagreements, but you could tell by his performance it was weighing on him over the course of the year. And if like you said, I don't think there was uncertainty about where he shakes out. He's going to be a major part of this team, or he's going to be transferred, but if he's here, he's going to play and he's going to be a major part. But this new coach and the stated goal of, we're going to have the ball more, we're going to shoot more, that lends to his talent set, and he was able to do what he wanted to do.
Yeah. And you look at Edison Flores, came up off the bench and looked brighter than we've ever seen him look. He had a really nice shot on goal. He had a lot of moments that really sort of wearing the sort of the face mask and everything, which is kind of funny. By the way,
go ahead. Sorry.
By the way, do we want to talk about the fact that the entire Peruvian team there's now a COVID outbreak in the Peruvian national team. So
we're real smart for telling everybody they couldn't go, I guess. I need to watch again the second half. I thought he was okay. I thought okay is better than usual for him. So I think I did remember the shot. I feel like there are still. I think he still needs to put more of a stamp on the game than he did. But he's coming back from a long break, so I'm gonna for now I'm gonna give him a pretty long excuse laying there. But I think Gressel was very good. I'm happy about that. Let's talk about Eric Sorga. So my problems with Eric Sorga are myriad. So Eric Sorga does not release the ball when he has it. He dribbles too much. He doesn't have great decision making on when to let go and move. He can shoot. I feel like he has a good sense for the goal. I feel like he has. He's not a selfish player, but I think he has a nose for it. But I think that when he goes back and gets the ball in the midfield, which he does a lot, as the second striker, he has taken on the Wayne Rooney go to the midfield and beyond to go with the ball. He gave it up way too many times, and there are it's like, I guess they're like rookie level mistakes, considering he is indeed a rookie this year into this league. But he has got to knock that off in order to get more game time, I think, and to be here next year and to do the things that I think he can do well. I think he has real promise for scoring goals. I just think that the rest of his game is not there, and not really close yet.
Yeah, just it very much. I saw some of those dribbling. He would get the ball in space and kind of dribble it, which, I mean, I guess is, in one sense, maybe that's something you want to keep possession, and you're trying to keep possession, or you're trying to hold possession. But you're right, and I have been kind of there's a lot of fans out there that love Eric Sorga, and I think it comes back to the goal he scored.
It comes exclusively back to the goal he scored
against the Red Bulls. Yes, it does. And there he got a shot. And he had an opportunity. I think if he had managed to notch a goal, that crowd would got a lot wilder. But I really don't think he was as involved in the game as I would like him to be in the attack, and really didn't show me anything that made me think that this guy is the answer. This team is looking for a striker next year. Galvin Rivas, love the guy. He's not the answer.
Nope.
Ola Kamara, I will wear that badge of shame about how much I talked him up. I mean, he's clearly not been the answer either. This team needs to go out. I think they need to if they want to be successful, spend designated player money on a striker. I think that's
two more of them as well.
Yeah.
Galvin Rivas had two opportunities right in front of in the 6-yard box. He kicked one of them right in the middle of the goal at the goalie, and then he headed one right at the goalie in the course of like maybe 2 or 3 minutes apart. Can't do it. Gotta make the goalie work. Gotta put it a little bit. I'm glad they were on frame. Junior Moreno also had a shot on frame, which I think is maybe his first shot on frame.
You mean he didn't put it above the bar? I think Assad had a really nice chance as well. I seem to remember that, like a really nice shot. I think that was
If you look at the numbers, I mean, it appears we had 14 shots, 6 on goal, 52% of possession, 3 offsides. That is because Ola Kamara only came on in the second half. Otherwise, it would be much higher than that. Only 1 save. So Bill conceded 2. And do we want to talk about this?
Yeah, I think we have to. I think I said on my Twitter account, Bill has okay. Let's be clear. Bill has been maybe a solid MLS goalkeeper, and when you are devoting most of your salary, a lot of your salary cap to your goalkeeper, he is, I think, the highest paid goalkeeper in the league. He has quite simply not been good enough, in my opinion. And I think I look back at, I look back on some of those goals, and I think, I look back on the goal, the I think it was the header for the second goal. That was really a backbreaker because the team started playing really well. You almost thought they were going to find a way to put the ball in the back of the net. They were looking really positive. And I look at that situation, and the ball goes up, and you are told as a goalkeeper, anytime a ball is inside that 18 or near your 6-yard box, that is yours as a goalkeeper. You're supposed to jump up and get it. And he has the skill and the ability to go do that. He did not do that. He stayed flat-footed, tried to have his defenders bail him out. They couldn't. Free header, back of the net. I think he still had some pretty good saves. But I mean, and maybe this is a function of the team. This is probably a function of the team being bad. But you look at that from that perspective, they were not. He has not had any games where you say that he has saved this team, or he's saved 3 points, or he's saved a point. I mean, there probably have been some moments, but they're very few and far between this year. When DC has been good and when they have won games, those moments are very, very clear when he has saved this team, particularly 3 points when this team has had to sort of choke games out. So.
Commenters in here haven't drawing issue with picking at the goalie when the defense has been horrible, and there's been lazy defending. I think that it is hard to distinguish between the two. I think you can't say that this has been Bill's best year for sure. I think you can't say that this has been in the top half of Bill's years, from any metric. But I do think that I think it's worth looking at. I don't think we're going to do better than him. I think next year with a better defense he'll be back to old Bill, but this season has not been. Like you said, I challenge you to go back and find Bill saving this team points like he has historically every single year. There has been games where we have had very few shots, or we've had a breakdown that should have led to a goal, and he saved us, and we kept the points. But this year, I don't have it. At the top. I can't recall it at the top of my tip of my tongue. If anybody in the chat has an example, we'll take it. But.
And here's what I will say. Yes, okay. Has the defense been fantastic? No. Have it been the worst defense we've ever had? I don't think so. Are we saying Donovan Pines is not a decent defender? Are we saying Steve Birnbaum's not a decent defender? Maybe everybody points to Brilliant, but I don't think Brilliant's been awful. I think they've been a pretty average defense. The problem is they just haven't been able to score goals, I think, has been the biggest problem. They had a stretch where they did not give up a goal when Chris Seitz was in the net. They have had shutouts this year. So, I mean, I take a little issue with the fact that the defense has been horrible. I think the offense has been the biggest problem this year, is they just haven't been able to generate that offense to give this team a rest on defense but I mean, I would say they have not been as bad. And, I'm sorry, if Bill was making $200,000, $150,000, I would say he's fine. He's not the issue. He's not the problem. Let's move on. But we are paying a significant number of salary, and I think it's worth asking the question, could that salary could we find somebody who could do maybe at least a capable job as this season and not have to be putting so much money? Now, if we can get the 2018 coming back and the 2019 Bill Hamid who saved this team and kept this team alive, if we can get that Bill Hamid back next year, absolutely he's worth the money. but he hasn't shown it this year. And we got to be honest. We got to speak truth to power. I am sure if Ben Olsen is listening, he has shut off and he has said that we don't understand, and I'm sure we don't. But from my perspective, Ben Olsen, Bill Hamid has not been worth his salary this year, and that is a fact in my opinion.
Bill, if you are still listening, that was Ted, and this is John, and I think you're great. I think you're doing a really good job. Just keep your head up.
He's direct messaged me before, so he knows. He knows.
Oh, same. I think he's direct messaged most people. Just to close it out, Jonathan says what I was about to say. Pines is good for one catastrophic failure each game. True, and they've caught. And I can think of 2 goals that have occurred from those catastrophic failures, and they always seem to look kind of hilarious. They're like Bambi-esque on ice type of failures. But Mark Rickling agrees with you and said Hamid has not justified his salary differential. Anyway, let's move on. Bill Hamid is not 1 through 10 of our biggest problems right now, most likely.
No.
So we'll continue on. One commenter wants us to talk about Yamil. I have actually had numerous people contact me and say I would like Yamil out. People are overwatching Yamil. I think there's a challenge here in that he had a good first season. He left. And then there was just like, a love affair that began. What's the guy from Atlanta on Twitter? From the Twitter, from the SB Nation blog?
Oh, yeah, him.
The guy that's obsessed with Emil Assad?
Rob
Usry, I think?
Yeah.
Our whole team became that guy. Like the fan base, like, we need Emil back. Emil back would make us much better. We couldn't get him back. Then we got him back. This season, he's not. I've not been impressed. I think there's been one game this year where he's made an impact. And Ben had made the excuse basically that he's coming off a long break, but he is. I'm not intent to keep him next year. I don't necessarily think that he is a great value, or if not, just be ready to move on from him and not have him be an automatic starter. I just think he's not making an impact anymore.
So I think Yamil has suffered from the fact that he is a good complementary piece, but if you are asking him to be the guy, and in reality, that is what the team has sort of been doing this year. He has played. I'll open up the phone lines too, 202-905-0454. Open them up, by the way. Give us a call. Talk about Ben. Talk about your favorite memory of Ben. I'm still want to reminisce a little bit. Reminiscing is fun right now because this team is terrible. But to Yamil Assad, I think you look at this season, you look at what it was like when he was in Atlanta. That was, and Julian Gressel's the same boat. It was the Miggy and Joseph Martinez show. In DC for Assad, it was the Wayne Rooney and Lucho Acosta show. And now he is so he was kind of a nice piece to have. Sort of in that late 2008. In 2018, the team wasn't that great. So, I mean, beginning of 2018, we kind of forget that a little bit. So you look at that and you say now he is kind of moved up the pecking order, particularly with Paul Arriola's injury. He is, it's Gressel, Assad, Flores. So now he is a more complement piece of this attack. I think he's had some moments, but again, I think the question is going to be. I think he's been asked to do a lot more than what he's been asked to do in previous seasons. In previous seasons, he was just told to just bomb up and down the sidelines, find your spaces, find your chances. So I will be curious. To see what happens maybe under a new coach and some new direction. I look at a lot of these players who have had good seasons, who are still young and is still approaching their prime. Julian Gressel, Paul Arriola, Edison Flores. These aren't guys that are like, I think people just tend to think, they're washed up, forget them. I'm like, no, these guys are still young players. They still have a lot of their career. I have to look at. I'm curious what Yamil Assad's age is. I actually have no clue. He is 26. So if you're telling me that he can never get back to the way he was at 24, 23, I'm sorry. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I just think he needs to be given a better direction.
Okay, well, fine. Give him half of a season next year. I mean, I mean, you don't just keep every young player who's ever had a good season because he might get back there one day. Like I feel like we cannot afford to hope that he gets back there. It's a rebuilding year, yes, but they've all been that way. I think we need to make a lot of moves here. I, we've had this quasi discussion fight last time. Most of these players don't have a lot of resale value. Emil Asai does not have much. Even if he has a quasi good season, a lot of these players have interleague value, but not much beyond that. Aside from maybe Ariola and maybe Bill,
Yeah.
maybe less now after a bad season. Anyway, so I think overall we would say we're pretty pleased with that 2-1 loss, even though the goal was an own goal. DC United's peak scorer from 2013 has returned. As Ben left, own goal has returned. But I mean, if this is how we're going to lose the rest of the year, we can handle that, right? I think we can deal with that if we got to watch this, and we have to. It's the rules. We have a contract.
It's going to be
at least it's looking better.
And that's really what I want to see out of these last 6 games. I want to see, because I'm already thinking, even this team manages to pull together some sort of rabbit out of a hat, goes on an amazing winning streak. I'm still thinking about 2021. I'm not expecting this team to make any noise in the playoffs. I want to see some
no. Yeah, no.
I want to see some guys. Okay, who I know that we need a new major piece. We need. I don't think Edison Flores. I think Edison Flores could be a comparable third designated player if he is not given the keys. I think this team needs somebody. It needs a guy like Wayne Rooney, maybe a younger.
Don't say young Wayne Rooney.
Young Wayne Rooney. Not a young Wayne Rooney, but a guy who's okay. The biggest issue with this team is that there's no person in here who wants to sort of say, this is my team. We are going to go do this. We're going to go do this. The one guy they had out there was Pipe Higuain, and he's gone. Maybe we're getting a little bit of that, because there are a lot of fans out there that were like, oh man, this is yeah, there were my fans. I'm sure maybe you're upset. I am nonplussed. I'm like, fine, go to Inter Miami, whatever. Our producer says we need Paul back hard. We do need Paul back, and that will be that for me is the new Branko Boskovic 2013, or maybe it was 20. I'm trying to remember when Branko. There was like this moment when you saw Dax McCarty and Branko Boskovic link up, and you had this idea that maybe they would be sort of the key and the answer in 2012, and then Branko went down with a major injury. So
the Open Cup game.
Yeah, the Open Cup game. Yeah, exactly. So Branko Boskovic forever the basically Paul Real is a new Branko as far as that goes.
I hope that's not true.
Well, although for the season is what I'm saying. It's the more what if scenario of like what happens if he's actually healthy and back. So
Paul, we've got to have you on the show to discuss the back piece that you've gotten done in the last 2 days. Paul sat for a full back tattoo in his own home while playing FIFA, while playing as DC United on FIFA.
There you go, man.
I will have you know. But I have questions about some of these choices. So, Paul, if someone's listening that can talk to you, holler at us, because I have questions.
Yeah.
So Pipe Higuain is gone. We got $50,000 in funny money, which I think we may have already used for an international spot so that Edison Flores can come back. So we just basically said, go be with your brother. It's fine. Pablo said that Higuain was vociferously annoyed, basically, at DC. He was tired of not playing. I was tired of him not playing. But he was growing frustrated, I think, even beyond just his being demonstrative on the field and basically yelling at his teammates for never doing the right thing. So I think it's probably good that he goes and gets a chance to play a half season with his brother. Probably not going to play next year.
It would have been. I think it would have been interesting to see how the season sort of developed if we didn't have COVID. I think maybe he would have gotten more of a look if the season had sort of played its way out. I think the fact that it was such a short stint, and I just think it led to weird stuff. But you know what? hiring, even if I think some people maybe were hinting, maybe they make, Higuain the coach. Maybe he would be after Ben was let go, he would have been the coach that they would have brought in. I kind of disagree with that scenario. Again,
no, thank you.
I don't think
we've done that.
Yeah. There's I'm going to be very adverse if they sort of bring back a new coach and say, hey, this is this coach's first time.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So.
Well, there was a question that what has happened to Yordi, and I believe he has COVID.
Yeah,
I think that's the deal.
We can't say for sure because of HIPAA. They're never going to say. DC did have a player test positive. He was off the team. The entire Peruvian team now has COVID. So I think someone posted a picture. Did he go out to like the airport or whatever to like see off like one of the players, some of the players or something like that? I don't know. I can't remember that. I think Ryan Kiefer posted that or something like that. So I don't know. I'm drawing connections that probably don't exist, but
there is a cork board with some string. You already ran a string and COVID string. Anyway, I think they said that he is. I don't know if he's been cleared yet, but I think he's maybe practicing. Paul is practicing full speed based on all of the images that we're getting out of training. I think that we talked about it at the beginning of the year. Is he going to play this year? I think he is. Even in a lost season, I think he wants to get out there now. So, go for it, man.
Watch him light it up with like a hat trick, and then we're all it's gonna become the new thing. Like what if Orlando didn't take out Paul Arriola?
Yeah. What if they didn't what if they did not run him over with a golf cart?
Yeah.
And cane him in the knee with a golf club?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
We don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. No one can be sure based on the fact that there was no video footage.
Yeah, no video footage. Come at me.
Anyway, I think that we're in a spot now where we're gonna have these games that don't mean anything in the larger scheme, and will just be about what positives can we draw. I think that after this loss, and then maybe one more, maybe they'll be encouraging Chad to potentially play those kids. I think that his goal of sneaking into the playoffs to argue for the job. I think maybe if we lose another game, I don't know when math takes hold here because we're doing 10 teams out of 14, but I want to see more Griffin Yao, please, and Kevin Paredes.
And that is one thing I think that a coach is going to get a benefit. There's plenty of tape on all these players. Every single player, there is going to be plenty of tape, plenty of analysis where a coach can come in and say, well, I like this guy, I like this guy, I like this guy. I don't like him. Yeah, we can do away with him. There's plenty of tape now. I wanted to see when DC. I'm very curious. DC. Next match is Philly on Wednesday.
Sweet.
Oh,
Sweet.
Man.
How did that last game go against Philly? I don't recall. I wonder what happened in that game.
It wasn't
was that
good.
The 4-0 game, I believe that was.
Yeah, it was a bad game.
I should say not the 4-0 game, but a 4-0 game.
Then we get Cincinnati at 7:30 on a Sunday. So that's the week we got coming up before we're back on the air to talk about this team. So
as you can tell, we've researched and are able to give you a preview because we just now Googled who they're playing with this week.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, we the research is Philly's much better than us. They are going to be better than us. Maybe we could benefit from the fact that I think Aronson is. I don't know. I think he's out. I think he's here till the end of the year. They are the heavy favorites. They are probably going to beat us. Since he's maybe a little bit more interesting because maybe this new. I really wish we had played Cincinnati. I think we would have if we had played the way we played Chicago. We might have actually won that game. So. And since he's the same thing, they're the same as they've ever been. So they're hanging out in the bottom of the East just like us. So be the Eastern Conference toilet bowl. All right. I guess that does it for us, guys. Again, patreon.com/RFQRefugees, RFQRefugees.com. I know I've been really busy. We will definitely get to more of the content that you guys love to doing the posts. So definitely
we're gonna also have some giveaways here in the next few weeks related to our Patreon. So as you can see by the t-shirt being sold, you're gonna hear about it. So when we have that, you'll know about it. Yeah. I will be tweeting at you.
Yes.
So look out for that.
Look out. And thank you all so much for listening. You guys are awesome. And we will catch you all next week. Vamos.
Vamos.